My name's Sam. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager here at Fairygodboss. And Fairygodboss is the largest career community for women. Our mission is to improve the workplace by increasing transparency. We offer a ton of great free resources like anonymous company reviews, job listings, articles, virtual recruiting events, and so much more to help you succeed throughout your career. Before we do get started today, we will be taking questions at the end of today's webinar. You'll find the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, so feel free to leave a question as yourself or anonymously. We'll get to as many as possible later. We'll also be sending out this webinar in an email later today, so you'll have the recording at your fingertips to rewatch in case you missed anything or want to share with a friend. Here with me today is Claudia Trejos. With over 25 years of experience in the broadcasting industry, Claudia is an accomplished and authentic sports personality, journalist, and role model for all women and minorities. Her career includes many firsts. She's among the first women to cover a boxing match in Saudi Arabia in 2019, the first female color commentator in the NBA's history as co-host on the weekly show NBA Max. She was the first female to report on Olympic boxing at the 2004 Olympics in Athens, which I definitely want to hear more about. Yes. The first Latina sports journalist to cross over from Hispanic to general TV market in the Los Angeles area in the 1990s. Thank you so much for being here today, Claudia. Over to you.
Thank you, Sam, and welcome everybody. And after such a great introduction, I cannot fall short from that. So I wanted to share with you guys a few of, I'd say, moments in my life that have brought me to this place and give me the honor to chat with you guys. So that was like a quick overview of what I've done in the last almost 30 years, but we're not counting. I just keep it at 25 because then people start doing the math. So I've had the fortune to be bilingual and bicultural, and I'm a sports journalist. What does that mean? I talk about sports. And how did I become that? I'm just a glorified fan. I'm a boxing analyst. My passion for sports is all over the place, but I have most respect for fighters. And since I come from a family of 17 kids and I'm number 14 out of 17. Survival of the fittest was a must since I was very young. So that basically fed the fighter within me. And basketball is the little Napoleon complex that I have within me. I'm only 5'3" on a good day. That's 1.60 m for those that choose to talk about meters in the metric system. So I'm very short, and that's once 1.60 m with heels. NBA was always a fascination for me because I grew up in the era of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and I found it absolutely gorgeous to see all grown men playing so gracefully and understanding that these people are the closest thing to giants. For the last 15 years, I have been working as a mother. That is my full-time job, really. And needless to say, that has been the most challenging and most rewarding job that I've ever had. And I had to share that with you guys because, as you all know, when we delve into corporate America and we decide to grow in our professional careers, it's a fine line to balance between career and family. And I found the same challenges as all you guys at home. Be it that you had to live with your parents or your husband or your kids or a single mom, it's always a challenge. So I want to throw that in just because I know that in the back of your mind, you're always wondering, am I doing enough? Am I enough? Am I good enough? So with no further ado, I'm going to walk you guys through a little bit of what these last 25 years have been. One of the things that I'd like to share with you is this was not what I set out to do. I grew up thinking that I was always going to be a doctor since I can remember. That's why I ended up here in the United States of America. And before that, I was in Switzerland, and I was, in my head, going to become a doctor. I did everything I had to in terms of education and, just being exposed to the medical career. And by 1996, my mom was kidnapped. And that threw the whole family and the finances in the family on a spin. At that time, my sister was a mother, single mother, and I was entrusted with her care. So in that will to just be a responsible adult, which I wasn't sure if I was or not, I had to take care of my sister and my nephew. What did I have to do at the time? Get a job, provide for my family. And I was thrusted into a world of TV. I started as a grip back in 1990, and it was always a part-time job. It was not something that I wanted to do. I was very blessed to be able to go to all these beautiful arenas to cover things that I love to watch: baseball, basketball, football, and obviously boxing. So I was a staple figure at Staples Center. Well, at the time it was a Forum. Then it was also at Chavez Ravine and LA Coliseum. Why? Because it was easy to walk in at night, set up the cameras, the game would start, and it would give me time to do whatever homework I had to do, whatever project I had to do. And then I would just, between innings or rounds or quarters, I would walk around, carrying a cable. So it was good money, part-time job. It didn't entail a lot of concentration, and it wasn't much of a sacrifice for me anyway, because I was going to be watching those games at home nonetheless. So in my mind, I just kept saying, I'll do this at night. Once I start my career as a doctor, then of course this is going to be put on the side. Obviously those dreams and projections and plans were set aside due to the fact that now I had to take care of my sister and my nephew. And it was a blessing in disguise. At the time, I wasn't sure if I could do this because, like I said, my mindset was to become a healer. So at that time, I had to look at myself and say, I've been doing this for the last 6 years. I think I can do this. And then the next time is, I trust that I can do this. Trust in yourself is one of the key components of being able to go from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3. A lot of us go through perhaps the imposter syndrome. You don't feel ready. You don't feel like you're capable to do it. But the truth of the matter is there's a rhyme and a reason as to why you're in the position that you're in. And another thing is that you have to be able to accept that challenge, understand that there's a moment in life that you bring whatever is within you to the table. And those peers, bosses, even your colleagues, they see in you something that perhaps you haven't recognized, but it's there. And you have to trust that you will be able to perform. And the reason why I know this is because I lived it. As I was preparing a segment any day of the week, I wrote it, I edited, I produced it. My talent didn't show up. The person that was going to present this didn't show up. And my boss said, well, we're in a crunch. There's nothing we can do. You got to show up. Again, that imposter syndrome kicks in and I'm thinking, I don't wear makeup. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I guess I have to do it. And I pushed through. And that, my friends, was the beginning of a completely different life. And it was all 3 minutes. That's all it was. I sat there, I did my segment. I did what we call review. It was a 3-minute segment where I just did highlights of other games that were going on at the same time. And that was the end of that. And then you start adding it up. Now you go from a 3-minute segment to perhaps a half-hour show and so on and so forth. But you have to start with trusting yourself. How did I end up trusting me? Because I had already written it, I had cut the highlights, I knew exactly what the copy was going to be, I knew the highlights, I did my homework. Did I have the talent at the time? Perhaps I wasn't ready for it in terms of delivery, in terms of, being able to handle cameras. That comes with time and flying hours. But the minute that you recognize and accept that you have indeed done your homework, it's so much easier to go to the second step. And as you grow up, you understand that you have value. You bring something to this table. As I move along, I ended up being the first female sports director. And again, it was a position that was thrusted onto me and still thinking that this is just a part-time job. By now, my mom was nowhere to be found, and probably by that time she was already deceased. So I came to a fork. And in Yogi Berra's best sentence, I came upon a fork and I took it. So I took a chance on myself. And somebody very wise, very well-known sports anchor at the time said, you're in such a rush, just give it time. allow yourself to grow into the position, allow yourself to just accept and recognize the process. None of us have come to the table knowing everything. And I was very fortunate enough to understand that there were people there to help me and give me a hand. Again, colleagues and peers came to me with criticism. Sometimes it was hurtful, sometimes it wasn't. But I took a little bit out of every single word they would give me. And the patience that took for me to go from point A to point B was the biggest challenge at that moment. Why? Because I wanted everything now. It's part of being young and naive, and the sense of urgency is always there to be able to perform. But patience is a virtue, and God puts you in these positions so you exercise patience. It's a muscle. And as you grow and as you just progress into your careers, you'll understand that perhaps you don't know things now and you're just learning these different things in your position. Tomorrow, you'll be more apt to taking different tools. By the day after, you will implement your tools and using other people's tools, because mentors will come around to give you their tools. And the saying goes, the master will be available when the student is ready. And it is never so true as it is today, especially in this pandemic, when the situation is surrounded by perhaps a little bit of anxiety and questioning what you're going to do next. What's your next move? I assure you, if you just sit back and give it a little bit of time and allow things to brew, that person that is meant to give you a light in whatever road you're supposed to take will come around. And my next thing would be flexibility. Why is flexibility a key? Because as I was growing up, again, there were no females doing what I did. And I remember thinking that I had to be another one of the guys being invited to the toolbox. And as you're moving, navigating all these challenges and questionings, and perhaps the lack of credibility, and people just wondering, what do you have that I don't have? How come you got the position and I don't? Because that's going to be part of being in a position that perhaps gives you exposure. That will come around. Why is flexibility key? Because you need to understand that as you navigate, when you're so rigid, you will not be able to flow. You will not be able to just take on a smaller position or a smaller job that perhaps does not go with the job description, or the challenge that comes into your space of attention is perhaps a little bit more than you can chew. But if you're flexible enough, you'll understand that the tools that I was telling you about, understanding that there's people that are going to come into your sphere of influence, will help you, will give you tools, and understand that perhaps that smaller task that you had to conquer will add up to a bigger challenge. And all that makes what you are and what you're bringing to the table. Every little experience or every big challenge will teach you a little bit more about you and what you can do. I included their immigrant mindset. Why is that important? Because as I came into this country as an immigrant, I remember clearly somebody saying, but you're a grip. At the time, I was a grip. Yes, and at the time, I was an aide to basically setting up mics on other people. But I was enjoying that process. I was really, really enjoying, and I saw the value of being there. First, as a sports fan. Second, learning things that I was not privy to, because I was not a TV person. I definitely didn't go to school for journalism or communications. So I was indeed getting paid to learn. So as I'm going through my education to become a doctor, I'm also getting an education in terms of corporate America, in small tasks, and putting them all together to become a producer, to become a writer, an editor. They are all part of who I am today as a sports anchor, as an analyst. And it's very important to be able to flow. There were times that I was actually called onto a set and all I had to do was bring coffee. A lot of people get offended by that. I didn't. because I was getting paid. And my main task was to support my family. And I had to go back to, why am I doing this? Obviously, as I grew up in the corporate ladder, I still bring coffee to my crew. I still sit and carry cables because I am part of a bigger thing, which is my team. Without my team, I cannot make it on air. So understanding that you need to be able to navigate all these different challenges and all these different positions in whatever it is that your endeavor will take you to that point Z, at the end of whatever road it is that you're looking or setting off to. I exhort you to deep down inside understand that it doesn't matter how lonely that position is, how much responsibility you have on top of you, you're still part of a bigger picture. And being part of that bigger picture allows you to understand other people's responsibility and value to the table. And that in turn will bring value to you. Why do I bring in fighter mindset? I talked earlier about criticism. You guys can imagine 25 years as a sports journalist in boxing and the NBA. My knowledge has been questioned, my accent has been questioned, and it all brings attention to the things that I am. A woman, immigrant, Hispanic, in a world dominated by men. Well, I had two choices. Either allow that to break me down, allow that to make me walk away from the opportunity that was given to me. And I am not going to sit here and tell you that it didn't cross my mind many times. Sometimes I wondered if all the criticism was worth it. And my answer was always, they don't even know who I am. But that was exactly my answer. They had no idea who I was. Those people that took their time to criticize me on the LA Times, radio, other shows, they had no idea what I was made of. They had no idea what hurdles I had to overcome, personal challenges, family challenges, financial challenges, educational challenges. They did not know, but I did. So I go back to the very first list. I trusted me. I trusted what I could do. And at the end, my mindset was, I have fought through shortcomings, failures, knees being scuffed. I was not going to let words on a newspaper or words coming out of people that had no idea what I was made of to determine what I was going to do or what I could do. And I was very, very fortunate to be already working in the world of boxing and understand what the fighter's mindset is all about. Whenever a fighter walks into the ring, win or lose, they're already winning because only a few fortunate actually walk into the ring. Hundreds and thousands and millions of children work hard. They go into gyms barefoot, barely have any food. And I'm going to give you a clear example. I've had the chance to speak to people like Manny Pacquiao, who comes from the Philippines. And today he's perhaps one of the highest recognized fighters, 8 divisions. And not once has he faltered. And I had to ask him, how is that? And he said, whenever you come from sleeping on the floor on the street with no shoes and not even knowing where your next meal is going to come from, anything coming after that is a gain. And that is true. Anything coming from being an immigrant, getting here from Colombia with $700 in my pocket, not knowing what I was going to do, applying to school, being accepted against all odds, being told that because I was a woman in my 20s, being Hispanic, recognizing my heritage, not being married, knowing that perhaps my position could have been filled with somebody with a little bit more of a stable situation. I beat all those odds. So what was anybody going to tell me to dissuade me from being what I was enjoying so much, being a boxing analyst, being a sports anchor, and with a very important commitment, which was to take care of my family. So at that point in time, I proved many wrong. As a matter of fact, after almost 30 years, I'm still here, and those detractors, they're not here. So in many ways, who had the last word? And again, I'm not going to say that it was all, peaches and pears and sweet and all good. No, there were times when I would cry myself on a Monday, because that's when all the criticism came in every single outlet. But nonetheless, there was a time where I said, well, they're criticizing me, but I'm doing what they want to do. So I proved them wrong. And all this I had to take with a grain of salt. Humility has been key, because now I'm going to go back to the first page that I shared with you. I was always ready and willing. I still am ready and willing to listen to people that have gone on their own path. I've taken their lessons, their advice. Not everything works. Not everything is meant to be used by everybody. But I recognized certain tools that people used, and they shared with me. They were kind enough to share with me, and they still do. And some I just put in a cubby, and I said, well, that cupboard is going to come in handy later. I don't need it just yet. But those tools come in handy at any given moment. And why is it important to be humble? Because it doesn't really matter where you're at. There's always space for improvement. There's always something better that you can do. And at the end of the day, being a good person is what really matters. Being fair, being honest, having work ethic, and that recognizing what you can bring to the table is also helping you recognize who's helped you to get to that table. And it recognizes also who else you can bring into that table. That is all part of being involved in a bigger picture. Is not only what you can do for yourself, but how you can help others. And that, my friends, is the key to any type of success. When you can actually close your day of work and be able to say, I did a good job. I am proud of what I did. Pat yourselves in the back. It doesn't matter how hard it was. It didn't matter how many challenges you faced. You came out at the end, at the other side of the tunnel, still looking at the light, and being able to not just be part of one team, but being able to incorporate others into your team so you can succeed. Being able to look back and say, this is what I've done. I've crossed paths. I've walked with people, and those people have also walked with me. And being part of a bigger picture, to me, has been the most important part of my journey. That's the way I'd like to see it. Moving right along, I just have to say that those three words that I've included in my presentation, to inspire, to empower, and grow. Why are those three words very important? Because when I was growing up, I always had an inspiration. As I was growing up, my mom was a lawyer, and she did not become a lawyer until she was well into her 40s. She didn't even finish high school until she was well into her 40s. So if I didn't take heed, I didn't heed any type of awareness of just being able to take challenges and grow and follow your dreams and aspirations. If I didn't take that from my mother, then I'm not sure where I would get it from. My dad was also a very inspirational man. He barely finished grammar school, and he was a self-made man, very successful in his own way, very cultured, but it was all in his own doing. And he inspired me to just grow as a person, not necessarily with papers and books, but just being able to talk to people, understand where they come from, what is it that they need, what you can add, what you can take from other people. That is part of being inspired and being able to inspire others. The empowering part is key, because at any given time, I had to take that baton that was handed to me as being the breadwinner for two other souls, like my sister and my nephew, now my daughter, has been key, because I had to rise to a commitment, and I had to understand that I was going to be the builder of my own destiny. At that given time, as I shared with you guys, I had nobody else, no other woman to follow. And even if there was a woman, they were not keen on helping others, because the business in TV work like that at the time. There was not much sharing. There was always that fear that somebody's going to take over my position. Here comes this young buck and they're going to take over my position. And I want to think that it was based on fear and ignorance. When you're empowered and you understand the value that you bring to the table as an individual, there is no fear. There is no need to be so tight and closed that you will not let somebody else into your bubble, because you can only bring what you have and nobody else can do that for you. Now, talking about TV in particular, it doesn't matter how many scores I give you. The scores are the scores are the scores. The highlights are the highlights are the highlights. But what I bring to the table in particular is my opinion, my point of view, my insight, which is going to be, for all intents and purposes, different from yours. But that's what I bring to the table, my own personal experience, because that's the filter that I bring to any type of analysis. My own take on things, and obviously as a woman, I want to think that I'm just another guy at the sandbox. That's not true. That's where I embrace my femininity. And the reason why I bring that up now is because I remember as I was trying to make my spot, my place in that sandbox, I thought I had to be another one of the boys. Because if not, my credibility was going to be questioned, my position was going to be questioned. And add to that, the fact that I am Hispanic, I am an immigrant. There was a given time when somebody criticized me for coming from a family of 17. And, you know, my parents, according to them, were too busy trying to have a family that obviously I didn't have a higher education. Again, for those naysayers, I'm still here and where are you? But as I am moving up on the broadcast ladder, I've now embraced the fact that I am a woman. I am a Hispanic woman. I have a completely different take from maybe even a Hispanic male. And I exhort you to embrace your individuality, embrace that what makes you special, because that is what makes the difference. When we come to the table, I'm not bringing XYZ. I'm bringing Maria, I'm bringing Sandra, I'm bringing the particular, not the general, because the general is always there. Now we want to make sure that that person is valued, is respected, and is given the opportunity to grow. And the only way for you to grow in your path is recognizing you and what your aspirations are, what your dreams are. Because I could sit here and give you a formula to go from A to B to C and tell you all my challenges and tell you a formula how to overcome those challenges. I would be lying to you, because through almost 30 years of experience and being able to talk to young ladies coming up the ladder, young men coming up the ladder, we never face the same challenges. But what we can do is face every single challenge with the fighter you have within you. That is the key. And that what makes you special is what's going to grow, not what adheres to a formula. What makes you you is what's going to make you grow to what your dream is. And that's why it's so important for you to find the warrior within you, the champion within you, understand it, embrace it, accept it, and respect it. And that is the one thing that I can leave you guys after 30 years of struggles, challenges, successes, and perhaps the most important success that I have is being a mother and being able to show her herself. Allow her to see herself, not see me in her, but see herself in her. Be able to recognize who she is, and what she wants to do. And now I ask you guys, take those 5 minutes every day. Acknowledge who you are. Be thankful for the opportunities that you have. Capitalize them. Don't doubt. There's a reason why you're there in that position, and you bring value to the table. And I'm pretty sure that you guys out there are wondering, but how am I going to do that? I assure you, the more you look, the more you shall find, because I did it. And it's really just deep down inside, just waiting for you to scratch, and it'll come out. I promise you that. So I know there's a lot of people out there that are wondering how we can do this, how we can inspire others. Just turn around. Look at that person beside you. I assure you, you have more similarities than differences. And in those similarities, you will find that you will come up with different solutions that will take you to the most wonderful place, which is success in your own way. And if you guys have your companies and you guys are interested in looking further into all these different ideas, don't forget to just, you can visit my website, claudiatrejos.com. I'm also on social media, on Instagram and Twitter, and I am happy to answer your questions. And if you just want to book a chat, I'm open. I have all opportunities, and I'm waiting for you guys to just open the doors for me. I assure you, I will make a difference in your company. I will help every single person grow and, reach that champion within yourselves. And I thank you for being with me. I thank you for your attention. And of course, now Sam is going to tell me that we can open the floor for questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Claudia. A true story of overcoming and finding success. I love it. And also just wanted to let you know, I don't know if you could see the chat, but everybody's saying thank you. Very insightful.
Oh.
You're extremely motivating. I echo all of that. I'm always inspired when I hear you speak. But as Claudia said, she's taking questions now, so feel free to leave them in the Q&A. You can leave them as yourself or anonymously. But let's start off with one that came through from Joanna. Joanna asks, how did you respond or handle a situation where another woman in the industry held you back or didn't want you to succeed?
Joanna, that's a brilliant question. And like I said, back in the 1990s, that was more the norm. And that's where flexibility comes around. Even if that person, be it a woman or a man, decides that you're not worthy or there's simply a challenge or you're a threat to their career, you can actually circumvent that. How do you circumvent that? Just being true to yourself, doing your homework, sitting down, understanding what it is that you want to do. And the minute that you're true to yourself, I know that sounds like magic, but it is. I assure you, other doors will open. And just, I know this is going to sound kind of weird, but feel pity for that person, because that person is actually fearing herself. She feels that he or she feels that she's not enough or he's not enough, or that perhaps they're falling short or they're getting older and they don't understand their own value. I wouldn't suggest for you to challenge that person, because again, that person is coming from a dark place. That person, their insecurities is what's really surfacing. You don't need to fall into that game. That's a game. As an individual looking into growing into your company, do your work. Understand what it is that you bring to the table. Challenge others to rise with you. If that person is putting a real roadblock to your being available to your superiors, your managers, you have a private meeting. But don't throw that person under the bus, because it's totally unnecessary. If it's a matter of projects being brought to the table, you do that project, you do the presentation. It will happen more often than not. The doors will open. And if not in that company, if your star will shine on its own, maybe another company, knock on doors. But that person should not define what you can do or who you are.
Yeah, Christina echoed that, saying people who are trying to sabotage you are not leaders at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're just trying to sabotage you. Another question here from Nurka. What was the biggest challenge you came across once you became a mother with regards to your career?
I felt like I was not a good mother. And I'm not going to leave it at a one-liner, but that was pretty much it. And at the time, I had to really look at myself and see what I was doing with my daughter and look at what I was doing at work and giving myself a pat on the back. I was the breadwinner. I am still the breadwinner. And I am going to share something personal with you guys. My husband at the time was an abusive husband. And unfortunately, I had to walk away from that relationship. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately because it became a very negative vortex. So now I had to deal with him feeding my daughter and him, trying to put all those negative feelings in my head, and me questioning my position as a mother, and being able to perform, literally perform, and I had to put a stop to it and look at things objectively. I had to take 3 steps back and see, what is a good mother, in my view, supposed to do? So she does this, this, and this, and this, and this. Am I doing this? Yes. Pat myself in the back. Am I falling short maybe on some things? Yes, because I'm not perfect. I'm human. But I had to take a very, very close look at who I was. Am I doing things in the best intent, with the best intention? Absolutely. Am I doing my job with the best ethic I had at the time, or I still have? Yes. And it's a balance. But the most important thing is, look at yourself in the big picture. You cannot fall into those little details, because I got news for you. We've all done things that fell short, that perhaps we're not proud of, that we could have done better. But do not let that define you. You cannot let that define you. I am a good mother, and I'm a very good professional. Am I perfect in either one? No. Am I working on it every day? Yes. So it would be easy to say, well, guess what? Stop working and take care of your kid. Is that going to make you a better mother? No, because probably you're falling short on bills. You need to provide a house, food, da, 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 da. So you got to keep it, juggling. We juggle. And guess what? As women, that's what we do best.
This is the last call for questions, because I see one more here, but it touches on basically exactly what you were just talking about. So I think it's a great one to end on. An anonymous attendee asked, do you still feel imposter syndrome today? And how do you deal with those negative thoughts when you start thinking them?
That's a very good question. Imposter syndrome is something that, for whatever reason, I'm not going to try to be Jung or Freud, because I'd be obviously lying. But for some reason, the simple answer is yes. It's always there. Our ego is always questioning your ability, always questioning your position, always questioning your credibility, because I don't have the answer as to why, but it's always there. That one little, I call him Fred. He's going through your files on a regular basis, wondering, why are you saying that? Or where are you basing this opinion on? And I have to literally look at myself and say, because I know, because I trust myself, because yes, I'm going to give you, I like to share these stories with you. There was a time back in 1990, somewhere in the 90s, back in, my mind just kind of like, I'm at the anchor seat, and I'm doing a highlight, and I don't use prompter because I'm dyslexic. So I don't read like regular people read. I do fast reading, and highlights I don't do with prompter. I do them ad lib. And as I'm doing a game that had 8 goals, it was a soccer game. I'm going goal after goal after goal. And if you know anything, you're constantly talking, describing whatever is going on the image. And on my IFB, my producer says, Bora died. Bora Milutinovic is a very well-known soccer coach. And at the time he was coaching China, first time that China actually qualified to the World Cup. I know I'm giving you the whole story. But at that minute, I hear Bora died. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this big coach just died, and I'm in the news. So I have to make a decision in split seconds. Highlight ends, and my anchor, the news anchor, says, it seems like you got news, last minute news. And I said, yeah, I just got news from the newsroom that Bora Milutinovic died. And he says, oh my God, how can that be? Well, in split seconds, my producer is back in my ear saying, no, the story died, because that's TV lingo. When a story is taken out of the rundown, it dies. But he never said the story died. He said Bora died.
Oh, no.
Exactly. Life is messy. At that minute, you can imagine I'm saying, Earth, open a hole, and I'm just going to bury myself, because this is ridiculous. This is on national TV. National TV. And of course, the criticism is, Not that she made a mistake or not that, oh, something happened and she was fed the wrong information. No, Claudia doesn't know crap. She is making stuff up on air. And in that minute, you're thinking, am I really prepared for this? Do I really want to do this? Do I have what it takes to do this? I had a family to feed. So I had to put on my big girl panties on, go back on air and say, you know what? I made a mistake. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. Remember that. You don't throw anybody under the bus. It was my responsibility. I made a mistake. It was a clerical mistake. I apologize. Thank God Buddha is alive and kicking, and he just qualified China to the next World Cup. But it lingered. That lingered for a while. And I'm saying this was maybe 6 hours worth of killing myself, but that feeling of, this is just the beginning. Am I going to be able to do this for the rest of my life? And you know how you get over that? I call them flying hours. Flying and doing it and accepting and respecting the process. I am not today what I was 25 years ago. Maybe I'm a little worse because now I have no filter. But that only comes with flying hours. Now I understand that, again, I find value in me, in what I do, not on whatever else other people think. Because now I've empowered me. I've allowed me to be me on air, off air, on computer, off the computer. That's the only way to overcome imposter syndrome. Trust yourself, accept yourself. In the acceptance, you also have to be humble enough to understand that you're not going to be perfect and it doesn't make you any less. I hope that answers your question.
I think that's the perfect note to end on, actually. Thank you so much, Claudia. Again, I know I'm leaving this conversation definitely feeling inspired, and I hope everyone who attended is as well. As a reminder, we'll be sending out the recording later today, as well as with Claudia's contact details. So if you want to get in touch with her, you will have the ability to do so later. Thank you once again, Claudia, so much. And thanks for everybody for joining. I hope you have a great rest of your week. We'll catch you at the next one. Bye.
Bye.